Ohio State makes it official. They hire Arthur Smith as their offensive coordinator. So I want to ask you guys a question. Who was Ohio State on the offensive side of the ball last year? Who were they trying to be? I got some numbers for you that I think will tell the story. Ohio State last year was 8th in college football in average time of possession. They were 115th in plays per game. What do those two things tell you? They were very adamant about controlling the clock, playing it super slow, those types of things. As a result, Ohio State ran the ball on 53% of plays. It's a real good amount. How did that work out for them? Well, they were 61st in the FBS in yards per carry, just 4.3. Now, very average for college football standards, but for the Ohio State standard, not even close. But most importantly, this is what we're going to talk about. When you're relying on something over and over and over and over again, and it's just not clicking, all of a sudden, it becomes way tougher to win. And that especially showed in big games for Ohio State. You look at the Indiana game, 58 rushing yards as a team. You look at the Miami game that ultimately ended their season, 45 rushing yards. Texas barely squeaked by there, 77 rushing yards. In those three games, Ohio State averaged just 13.7 points per game. Offense was pretty much non-existent. And it was so interesting because Ohio State last year was so unbelievably talented. And they were a great team, blowing teams out. The results were there. You could say they had identity issues on the offensive side of the ball last year. And look, I'm not one to criticize play calling, but I'll at least say, as a viewer, Ohio State had a Heisman finalist at quarterback. They had 2 top 5 picks at wide receiver. So it just left me a little bit perplexed as to why they ran the ball so much, why they played so conservatively. And maybe Ryan Day could give you a better answer than me. Actually, he would give you a way better answer than I would. But I'm speaking more of a viewer's perspective. It just left me a little bit perplexed. It's kind of like that kid in high school who you know as a nerd. He's scrawny. He's little. Great in school. But all of a sudden, he's going through an identity crisis. And you look at that kid, and he's no longer going to science club, quits science club, tries out for the football team, and gets absolutely blindsided in practice. And you kind of think, man, what are you doing? Like, you should be putting your time into science club, what you enjoy. Why are you going out here getting absolutely destroyed, putting your body on the line like this? It's sort of like with Ohio State, why are you running the ball on 2nd and 9? And again, Ryan Day could give you a better answer, but I'm just saying from the viewer's perspective, it just confused me a little bit. But I will at least say this. Think of who Ohio State had when they won the national championship last year. Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins. That's 2 NFL starters at running back. And even if you want to go historically, 2015, Ezekiel Elliott. 2002, Maurice Claret. There is a certain pride that Ohio State has with running the football. And that's just a fact. But it's hard to run the ball 30 plus times, 40 plus times even, when you can't get anything going, especially in big games. So I will say this, because we're going to circle back here to the Arthur Smith hire. I'm a Titans fan. I know. Miserable. It sucks. I know. But I've watched a lot of Arthur Smith games. I've watched him call a lot of plays. In Arthur Smith's 7 years as an NFL offensive coordinator or head coach, his teams have been top 5 in the NFL in rushing attempts 4 times, top 10 5 times, and top 10 in rushing yards 5 times. So I think we know exactly what Ryan Day is looking for. He's looking for someone who can call really good run plays. And, I'll share this too. Before Arthur Smith got to Tennessee, people don't know this, but Derrick Henry wasn't even the full-time starter. He was battling for the RB1 job with Dion Lewis. And then all of a sudden, Arthur Smith arrives, and the first ballot potential NFL Hall of Famer and Derrick Henry is born, and he takes off. And I'm not going to say this to compare Bo Jackson, not the Auburn Bo Jackson at Ohio State, to Derrick Henry. But I think Bo Jackson's got a lot of talent. He was a true freshman last year, and he averaged 6.1 yards per carry. Okay, and Ohio State was averaging just 4.3. So there is a clear spike in production when that guy touched the ball. I think with Arthur Smith coming to Columbus, Bo Jackson can take a major step up. And I think that could elevate this Ohio State offense to another level. And defensively, yeah, there are a little bit of questions, but this defensive line is going to be legit. You do have spots to fill in the linebacker room, but in the secondary, man, Jalen McClain, Jermaine Matthews, Devin Sanchez even, you got some dudes in this secondary that are ready to step up. So this is going to be one of the most talented defenses in college football. And on the offensive side of the ball, I'm not sure there's a better offense than Ohio State going into 2026. And this defense averaged just 10 points per game allowed last year, which is pretty generational, if I'm being honest. I don't think this defense needs to be generational. I think they need to be very, very good, and I think they can be. But because of Sayan and Smith alone, and you factor in Brandon Ennis and Bo Jackson and Arthur Smith calling plays, they're going to be in the national championship picture. Ohio State will be where they belong, where they've been for tons of decades, no doubt in my mind. But I do want to say that I think the road for Ohio State to the college football playoff is going to be tougher this year. Like, you look at their schedule, you need to go 10-2 to make the playoff. At least that's what we've seen these first 3 years. It's possible for them to make it at 9-3, but we haven't seen a 9-3 team in the CFP. Ohio State plays at Texas, at Indiana, and Oregon. It's very possible that those 3 teams I just listed are the preseason 1, 2, and 3 going into next year. And assuming they don't lose at Iowa, at USC, and Michigan, because those 3 games they should win, but they're not necessarily cakewalks, they have to win at least one of those 3, or else their season's probably done, or they'll be biting their nails off on Selection Sunday. Also, side note, Ohio State's not playing Penn State this year. Big Ten, what are we doing? They should be playing each other every year. Just want to put that out there. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. Last year, here's my point. Ohio State tried so hard to lean on this run game, and it didn't work out. Now you've got Arthur Smith calling plays, who has a track record of major success in this area. And Bo Jackson's no longer just a true freshman. I think this run game is going to elevate this offense to a whole nother level. And the defense is not going to be what it was last year. Probably not, at least. But they'll still be one of the best defenses in the sport. And that is a recipe for national championship contention. And I'll say this, too. I'm going to close off the video with this. If Ohio State establishes an identity and finds out who they are, which, by the way, I don't think they did last year, they're the favorite going into 2026 to win that national championship. And I think Arthur Smith helps them do just that, which is establishing an identity. But more importantly, establishing the identity that Ryan Day wants Ohio State to establish.